adopted. No apologies for absent. Oh, do we know if Maria's coming? Okay, so she might pop in a minute. Okay. Published record of the meeting of the 23rd of June. Can I sign that as a true record? Thank you very much. I'm assuming that's fine. Section 106, I remind members of that. Also of disclosures of interest. Business not covered by the current forward plan. We haven't got any general exception items. Business not covered is special emergency. We haven't any. No references from committees and other bodies. No recommendations from scrutiny. No petitions. No reports. We're going to go home. Yeah. So we've got some business items. Development of the new resource provision at Wigmore Primary School. Over to yourself, Javeria.
Thank you very much, Chair. So the Executive is recommended to approve these statutory proposals that are basically set out in Appendix 1 to develop a new resource provision at Wigmore Primary School for pupils with social, emotional and mental health. So SEMH for short, special educational needs and disabilities. Key issues, Chair and colleagues, are that nationally there's been a significant increase in pupils requiring an education and healthcare plan for SEMH SEND. The national increase is reflected obviously in Luton as well. Luton is in an unusual position as a local authority in not having specialist SEMH provision and is therefore heavily reliant on spaces in SEMH schools in neighbouring local authorities and the independent sector, which are becoming more scarce as the demand increases. That's obviously not in a good position to be in. The new provision will offer highly structured and personalised adapted curriculum with specialist support integration into mainstream activities and lessons when pupils are academically, socially and emotionally ready. Insofar as positive aspects with regards to this proposal are concerned, we obviously carried out a consultation and there was strong support for the new provision with 88% of respondents in favour of the proposal. There were no comments or objections received in relation to the statutory proposals. Obviously the closing date is the 16th of July and obviously we would have let you know if we received any comments and objections, but I have checked with the officers and we haven't received any to date. The places at the unit will initially be filled by pupils with an EHCP plan for SEMH who have been in our neighbourhood behaviour provisions, and obviously the new provision at Wigmore is better suited to meet their SEND needs. So with that, the recommendation is for colleagues to approve the statutory provisions as set out in Appendix 1, but we're happy to take any questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Javeria. Are there any questions on the report before us tonight? Yes, Maria.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Javeria, for the report. My question or concern is with the increase nationally and being reflected in Luton as well. I mean, is there anything that we can do, about this, the increase that we're seeing? Is there anything that we can tackle? Any interventions that we can put in place? Because it's quite concerning. What can we do?
I am absolutely awfully sorry. I didn't.
No, I'm just saying that with the increase, that it's national, but then it's being reflected in Luton. I'm just saying that what can we do? Intervention. Is there anything that we could do? About what's causing the increase?
So it's basically to understand what the underlying issues are. Do you want to take that, Debbie?
I think obviously we're trying to intervene as early as possible. So the good news about this proposal is that it's a primary provision and therefore it runs from reception age through to year 6. And early intervention is the best sort of approach to this, and we'll get in as early as we can and support the pupils with this very specialist nurturing provision. So I think that's probably the best way we can tackle it, but it is very much nationally on the increase. But I think this proposal will help with that.
All right, Maria? Okay.
So all I was just going to add, so if we're able to do something for them locally, which we obviously couldn't do for them before, then that is a one step in the right direction. But obviously we are keeping and monitoring what the underlying causes are on that.
Okay, Javid.
You've got Rob first.
Was it before you? Okay, sorry Rob, I missed you.
Thank you, Chair. obviously, there's no problem approving this policy tonight. There's a couple of things that raises more questions for me. You may not be able to answer this evening, but it has no effect on approving what you're putting forward tonight. The greater rates of exclusion of this cohort seems a bit worrying for me. And I don't know if we're talking about primary or secondary or what that involves. And I think at some point, I think we would like to see a paper around that, if possible, just to see, because being a cynic, you know, are some schools saying, well, we don't want this child here because it's going to affect what our rates are. So we'd like to see a paper around the understanding of the greater rates of exclusion. And we're going to cater for 8 children initially and up to 16. When reading the report a little bit further, it sort of indicated that 16 is the children that we have in this primary level. I don't know. So what is the scale of the primary level? And I guess the secondary level is looked after through our own special education needs schools. So it's really finding out what the scale is. Is it 16? Because I read in the document a little bit earlier forward, we're going to go for 8 children initially, up to 16, because that is what the need is. And I don't know if it is the need, so what is the scale? And I also have a comment around the consultation, which I think consultation worries me at this council, or every council really, not just council. Again, it's not criticism. You've gone out to consultation, but you've gone out to consultation, you reached out to many families, people, organisations, schools, school governors, and get 25 responses. It's not good. Well, maybe we have to. That's just a comment from a whole council point of view, Chair. It's nothing to do with this, with the officers here tonight. It's more of an old council thing that we may need to look at how we do that, because we need to get better consultation. But certainly approving it, but just concerns around those areas. Thank you.
So in terms of the scale, we actually have 8 pupils now that we are looking to place in the provision this coming academic year. We've kind of tried to future-proof it, I suppose, and having the capacity to go up to 16, but it'd be very much where there is a sort of demand for that specific type of provision, we could go up to 16. So we're starting off with 8, but we are kind of, making sure we've got the capacity should we need it in the future. So it's not that we definitely will go to 16, but we have that option to do that if we want to. So we're going to sort of see how we get on at the moment. Try this early intervention approach. It's very nurturing, sort of bespoke curriculum approach, and see how that works. Really, the demand we have. And in terms of consultation, we did try. I take your point on that. We did try really hard to do a really good consultation on that. So, but yeah, the numbers aren't huge that have responded. I'm not sure how to take that really, because we did reach out as much as we could to everybody.
And also, we'd like to see a paper come back about at some point, because that just to try and understand it, 'cause that's a bit worrying, really. Thank you.
So if I could just come back, Chair. Item 1, yeah, most certainly we can do that. But I think regarding consultations, as obviously the officer said, it's with generally all consultations that the council has undertaken. So I think we might need to look at this as a whole as to how we can increase participation from residents, particularly those that are impacted. But it's a valid point. Thank you.
Thanks, Javiria. Javid.
Thank you, Chair. Deborah, you've partially answered my question. So I thought we had quite a lot of need for SEMH. Now, how many children do we place out of borough, if any? And in page 24, in the implementation, we've got the SMH resource provision will open in 2 stages, which you partially answered. September 25 will see up to 8 people, and then you've got in brackets depending on need. So you've said we have that need. And also, then it goes on further to say another 8 depending on need. I would have thought we had that need for 16 at least. Or does this bring in any out of borough placements back into our borough? Thank you.
At the moment, we're not bringing any children back from their current school place. We don't want to destabilise their education. What we're doing is there's some children. There's 8 children in the borough who are currently in Luton schools who would very much benefit from this provision, and we're moving them to this provision. And I think that's a really positive thing for those young people. But we don't want to do is kind of fill it up, and then if we've got any other children that need places, we haven't got anything for them. So it's good we've got some capacity should we need it for other children. But at the moment there are definitely 8 pupils for next academic year we know of that need this type of provision. And creating it here means that they're not having to go out of borough to access it as others have had to in the past. So it's very much creating a local provision for our pupils to save them from going out of borough at high cost to us as they move forward in their education.
I absolutely agree that I'd love to see more schools offering this so that we could bring in the outer borough. And that was my point, that if they could bring the 8, at some point we know we have a need for it. And it's just that I think I didn't like the word depend on need, because I think there is a need, and if they said we will do it, then we can look at ensure that we don't destabilise. But having that provision is definitely a positive, and asking other schools where they can would be excellent to bring outer borough back into our own borough. Thank you. I fully support this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Sorry, just wanted to come back. Yeah, thank you, Deputy Leader, for your comments. Yeah, completely agree that hopefully in the long term this would reduce, you know, it's one of those cost-saving things as well as it is costing us money. But if we're able to enable more local schools to be able to do this, then I think that's a good term for us to look after such children that have such complex needs.
Thank you. Diraj.
Thank you, Chair. It was on the back of an earlier question from Councillor.
Oh, sorry.
Actually, Councillor Javed also raised this point. I think the issue for us, and to answer your earlier question, what more can we do? We need to push for inclusive offers from mainstream schools as much as possible, but we also recognise this is difficult, and therefore we need to support our schools as best as possible. So providing better provisions for SEMH within those areas and within those schools is the right response. We also are expecting SEND reforms later this year, and they will be talking to better inclusive offers to children within mainstream schools, expectations of local areas doing more, and actually the teams preempted that. They've started to look at provisions of this nature in accordance with the need, and well before we get to the position of our own SEMH school being able to be stood up and opened and run within the borough as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Diraj. Gulam.
Thank you, Hazel. I was going to say, Debbie and Javier, I fully support this. I think this is a positive move. I fully believe in Luton children staying in Luton and going to a Luton school rather than outside the borough. And I think this will add to the provision we have. And also, we are doing further work around having more provision, in the sense we've got a SEN school in Kestrel Way and one going to planning, I think, in Bishopscope Road, and that will further help and ensure young people in Luton stay in Luton, which is welcomed. I want to pick up on what Councillor Roach was saying around exclusions, and I'd like to support him in saying that it would be good to get something on exclusions, simply because a lot of young people, 70% of young people who have a custodial sentence actually were excluded at some stage in their schooling. And it would be really good to get a picture of what that is in Luton as a kind of preventative measure about where we're going. So thank you.
Can I just raise a quick
Yeah.
question for Executive? Is that something that Executive would like to see here, or to go via scrutiny? I think would be helpful just to unpick.
Happy to come back here?
Bring it back here, yeah, because this is where it's been asked. Yeah, we can do that. Councillor
Thank
Gulam,
you.
thanks for your support.
Thank you very much. James?
Yeah, just generally supportive, just a quick point of clarification. So the project cost is quite low, and that's seemingly because they're adapting existing buildings, which is great if it works. Just wanted a little assurance that the rest of the school children won't be losing facilities as a result of converting these ones. I just wondered if there's any indication on what those rooms are that are being converted.
Yeah, so Wigmore used to have a provision in the school, it's ASD provision, and that went elsewhere. So we've actually got the space, and we're just making it better. We're just refurbishing it and making it more fit for purpose for this particular cohort of young people. So the school won't lose out. The other pupils at the school won't lose out. Actually, that did come up in the consultation, and the school were very clear that it's not to the detriment of existing pupils. If anything, it brings more skills into the school, which may help the larger cohort of pupils that aren't directly in the provision as well. So it should be a positive thing for the school.
So it's redundant space already?
Yes.
Yeah, great. No problem. Happy to support.
Okay.
So it's not the detriment of any existing spaces as well.
Okay, Bassett.
Thank you. I was going to say, I mean, incredibly supportive of this. I think it saddens me that some of these kids are excluded and seen as problematic children when they're not. But what I was going to ask was, I've also seen a lot of children that are excluded, the ones that already are excluded and go to independent provision. Some of them aren't fit for purpose. what happens once is the council still working with those that are already excluded to try and bring them back into mainstream at some point, if they've been excluded? Because we know the outcomes aren't great if they've been excluded. So.
We're always constantly reviewing placements. Our Senate team are always reviewing placements and wherever possible bringing pupils back into mainstream. And we do have a programme as well where pupils that are excluded, going back to the earlier comments, where we can bring them back into mainstream, we do. And we do that for a number of pupils. Some pupils do need to stay in sort of provision like ACE, our pupil referral unit, who are excluded. But regardless of what provision type it is, if they can come back into mainstream at any time, we do look at that in annual reviews of EHCP plans.
If I can just follow up, Chair, I think the report that we bring back to the executive will have the whole picture, and yeah, it will include what we do with those that actually come back into the system as well. So that'll give colleagues a bit of a better idea. Thank you.
Okay, I've no more questions. So are we happy to agree the report?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. We move. Can I take